Welcome back to Beyond the Unknown, where we like to dig into all things mysterious and unexplained.
That's right.
You might remember some of our past episodes,
Mm.
like episode 3,
Yeah.
where we dug into the Kenneth Arnold sighting back in 1947.
All right.
That was the one that
Oh, yeah.
really kicked off the whole flying saucer craze.
Yeah, it basically launched the modern UFO era.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there was episode 7,
Yeah.
where we talked about Congress planning those UFO hearings.
Uh-huh.
It's clear this topic is still very much on the government's radar.
Definitely.
Speaking of the government's interest in UFOs,
Yeah.
today we're tackling episode 9, Project Blue Book.
Oh, Project Blue Book.
Yeah.
It's like the
Yeah.
granddaddy of all UFO investigations.
I agree.
Our source for this deep dive is a report on this top secret project which ran from 1952 to 1969
Wow.
and investigated over 12,000 UFO sightings.
12,000.
It's
That's very cool.
It's no wonder this continues to fascinate people.
To really understand the context of Project Blue Book, we need to rewind a bit
Okay.
to that pivotal moment in 1947, the Kenneth Arnold sighting.
Right.
Remember?
Yeah.
He was a pilot who reported seeing 9 crescent-shaped objects zipping around near Mount Rainier.
Yeah, and people went nuts.
He went crazy.
Like the world suddenly woke up to the possibility that we might not be alone in the universe.
Exactly. And that's when the government really started paying attention.
So in 1948, they launched Project Sign,
Okay.
their first real attempt to figure out what was going on with all these UFO reports.
I've read that there was actually some initial openness within Project Sign
Uh-huh.
to the idea that these UFOs could be extraterrestrial.
There was.
Really?
But that open-mindedness didn't last long.
Oh.
In 1949, Project Grudge took over, and they were much more skeptical.
Oh. So it's almost as if the government got spooked by the whole idea of aliens
Right.
and decided to shift the focus to debunking sightings instead.
That's a common theory. But you can't keep a good UFO down.
Right.
Public interest just kept growing.
Especially with the Cold War in full swing.
Right.
People were already on edge, and these UFO sightings just added to the anxiety.
Exactly.
So by 1952,
Mm-hmm.
the Air Force decided it was time for a more systematic approach.
Okay.
They needed a way to determine if UFOs posed a threat to national security.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how Project Blue Book was born.
Exactly.
They set up headquarters at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio
Right.
and got down to business.
So they had this huge task in front of them. Thousands of UFO reports to investigate.
Thousands.
Who were the people in charge of making sense of it all?
I don't know who.
Well, the first director of Project Blue Book was Captain Edward J. Ruppelt,
Okay.
a World War II veteran who brought a very disciplined and, importantly, unbiased perspective to the project.
It's important.
Yeah, and I've read that he's actually the one who coined the term unidentified flying object, or UFO. He wanted to move away from the more sensational flying saucer label and bring a sense of scientific objectivity to the investigation.
Makes sense.
Right.
They were dealing with something completely unknown, so having a clear and neutral terminology was probably crucial.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And speaking of the scientific side of things, that's where Dr. J. Allen Hynek comes in.
Oh, Hynek.
He was an astronomer brought on as a consultant.
Hynek, he's a legend in the UFO world.
He is.
Didn't he start out as a skeptic, though?
He did. He was initially brought in to debunk sightings.
Oh, wow.
But as he dug deeper into the Project Blue Book cases, his perspective began to shift.
We talked about this in episode 8.
We did.
I remember.
He ended up becoming one of the leading advocates for serious UFO research.
That's right.
His journey from skeptic to believer, or at least to someone who acknowledged that there were legitimate unexplained cases, is really fascinating.
It is.
But that's a story for another time.
So you've got Ruppelt,
Hmm.
the disciplined military man, and Hynek, the astronomer whose mind was about to be blown wide open.
I like that. Yeah.
They had this mountain of UFO reports in front of them.
Yes.
How did they even begin to tackle that?
Well, they developed a pretty rigorous system for categorizing all those reports.
Oh, okay.
Every sighting was carefully analyzed and classified into one of 3 categories.
Okay, let's hear those categories. What were they?
Well, the first was identified.
Okay.
That means they were able to find a conventional explanation for the sighting.
Like a misidentified aircraft or a weather balloon? Right?
Exactly.
Wow.
The second category was insufficient data.
Why?
That meant there wasn't enough information to make a determination one way or the other.
So those were the cases that were just too ambiguous to analyze properly.
Right. And then there's the third category,
Uh-huh.
the one that everyone wants to hear about.
Let's hear it.
unidentified.
Ooh, now we're getting to the good stuff.
I know, right?
Those are the cases that kept the mystery alive, right? The ones that defied explanation.
Oh,
And believe me, there were some truly perplexing cases that fell into that category.
there were.
In fact, over the 17 years that Project Blue Book ran,
Yeah,
they investigated some truly mind-boggling incidents.
some really crazy ones.
Okay, you got me hooked. Give me some examples.
All right.
What were some of the most notable cases that Project Blue Book tackled?
Well, two that really stand out are the 1952 Washington, D.C. sightings
Okay.
and the 1964 Socorro incident.
Interesting.
Both of these cases involved credible witnesses
Oh, wow.
and some pretty compelling evidence.
Wait, the Washington, D.C. sightings?
Yes.
Weren't those the ones where UFOs were seen over the White House?
Well, not exactly over the White House, but they were seen over the city for several weeks.
Wow.
Radar operators at multiple airports, as well as pilots, reported seeing these unexplained objects flying around.
So this wasn't just some random person seeing lights in the sky.
Yep.
We're talking about trained observers, radar confirmations, the real deal.
Exactly. And it even prompted a press conference from the Air Force.
Perfect.
They were definitely feeling the pressure to explain what was going on.
I bet.
Okay, what about the Socorro incident? You mentioned that one too.
I did, yeah.
Right, that one involved a police officer named Lonnie Zamora.
Like,
He reported seeing a landed craft and two occupants near Socorro, New Mexico.
hold on, a landed craft?
Yeah.
Like an actual spaceship on the ground?
That's what Zamora claimed. And remember,
Yeah.
he was a respected police officer.
Right.
Not exactly the kind of person you'd expect to make up a story like that.
I guess not.
Yeah.
Did they find any evidence at the alleged landing site?
They did. There were physical traces that seemed to corroborate Zamora's story.
Yeah.
Scorched earth, broken bushes, things like that.
Wow, so you've got a credible witness, a landed craft,
Right.
and the physical evidence.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough one to dismiss as just a hoax or misidentification.
It is.
Did Project Blue Book ever come up with an explanation for that one?
Not really. It remains one of the most intriguing and unexplained UFO cases in history.
It sounds like Project Blue Book was uncovering some pretty compelling evidence.
It does.
Did this change the government's attitude towards UFOs at all?
Well,
Were they starting to take the possibility of extraterrestrial life more seriously?
that's where things get even more interesting.
Okay.
While Project Blue Book was diligently investigating these sightings, a separate group was convened to evaluate the situation.
Huh.
This group, known as the Robertson Panel, met in 1953.
The Robertson Panel. I
Yeah.
remember reading about them.
Oh, you do?
They were basically a group of scientists tasked with assessing the national security implications of all these UFO reports, right?
That's right. And their conclusions had a significant impact on the direction of Project Blue Book, but we'll have to delve into that after a quick break.
Oh, sounds like things are about to get even more intriguing.
Yes.
We'll be right back with more on Project Blue Book and the Robertson Panel's findings. Don't go anywhere.
We'll be right back.
Okay, so we were just talking about the Robertson Panel,
Yeah.
and their meeting in 1953.
Right.
What exactly did they conclude about all these UFO sightings?
Well, the panel concluded that UFOs didn't pose a direct threat to national security.
So they weren't too worried about aliens invading
Not exactly.
or anything like that?
But they were very concerned about something else.
What's that?
Public panic.
You mean like
Yeah.
mass hysteria?
Mm-hmm.
People freaking out about little green men landing on the White House lawn?
Pretty much, they were worried that all these UFO reports could lead to widespread fear and social unrest.
Makes sense.
Remember, this was the Cold War,
Right.
and anxieties were already running high.
Yeah, the last thing the government needed was people running around like chickens with their heads cut off thinking the world was ending.
Exactly. So the Robertson panel recommended that the Air Force take a more proactive approach to debunking UFO sightings.
So basically they wanted to calm the public down
Hmm.
and reassure everyone that there was nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
So even though Project Blue Book was supposed to be this objective investigation into UFOs,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like there was a hidden agenda at play, right?
It definitely seems that way.
Control the narrative,
Hmm.
minimize panic, that sort of thing.
And this shift in focus had a major impact on the way Project Blue Book operated.
I see.
Instead of pursuing every lead and really digging deep into the most unexplained cases,
Right.
they were pressured to come up with conventional explanations, even if they weren't very convincing.
It's almost as if the truth about UFOs became less important than keeping the public calm.
That's one way to look at it, and it definitely fueled a lot of suspicion and mistrust towards the government.
Oh, I bet.
People started to believe that there was a cover-up, that the government was hiding something.
Of course. And the media played a role in all of this, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You can't talk about UFOs and government secrecy without talking about the media.
that's true.
In the 50s and 60s,
Uh-huh.
the media coverage of UFOs was a wild mix of genuine curiosity and sensationalism.
Yeah, you had those cheesy black and white photos of flying saucers,
Right?
headlines screaming about alien invasions.
Yeah,
It must have been quite a circus.
it was. And on the one hand, it helped to keep the public interested in UFOs,
Mm-hmm.
but it also made it difficult to separate fact from fiction.
Right.
The more the media hyped things up, the more skeptical the government became,
Yeah.
and the more suspicious the public became.
It was this vicious cycle.
It was.
So you have Project Blue Book trying to investigate UFOs objectively,
Right.
but they're also under pressure from the government to debunk sightings and keep the public calm.
Uh-huh.
And then you have the media stirring the pot with all sorts of wild speculation.
Exactly.
It's no wonder people started to believe in conspiracy theories.
Right. It created this perfect storm of mistrust and paranoia.
Yeah.
And all of this culminated in the formation of the Condon Committee in 1966.
The Condon Committee,
Yeah.
that was an independent group of scientists who were brought in to review all the UFO evidence, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like a final word on the matter.
The Air Force was hoping that the Condon Committee would put the whole UFO thing to rest once and for all.
And did they?
Well, it's complicated.
Oh, okay.
They spent 2 years reviewing cases, analyzing data, and interviewing witnesses.
So they really did their due diligence.
They did, and in 1968,
Ah,
they released their final report.
okay.
It's a massive document.
Wow.
But the conclusion was basically this.
What was it?
There's no evidence to support the existence of extraterrestrial technology, and further study of UFOs is unlikely to yield any scientific benefits.
So after all that investigation, the government basically threw up their hands and said,
Yeah,
we don't know what these things are,
right.
but we're not going to waste any more time trying to figure it out.
Pretty much. And that paved the way for the termination of Project Blue Book in 1969.
But even though Project Blue Book officially closed,
Yeah.
the story doesn't end there, does it?
Well,
I mean, they investigated over 12,600 cases.
right.
What happened to all those cases?
That's the thing.
Yeah.
They investigated over 12,600 cases, and a whopping 701 remained unidentified.
701.
Yeah.
Now, 701 cases that, even after all that investigation, couldn't be explained.
Right.
What do you think happened to those cases?
Well, the files were declassified,
Oh, so they're out there.
so they're out there for anyone to examine.
So Project Blue Book may be over, but the mystery definitely continues.
It does.
It's not just about those 701 unexplained cases.
Right.
It's about the whole legacy of Project Blue Book.
Yeah.
The way it shaped public perception of UFOs and the ongoing debate about what the government really knows.
It's interesting to think about how Project Blue Book emerged during such a specific historical moment,
Like what?
the Cold War.
Oh, right.
You had all this fear and uncertainty, the threat of nuclear war, the space race,
Yeah.
and then you have these reports of unexplained objects in the sky.
It's like something straight out of science fiction, but it was happening in real time. It's no wonder people were both terrified and fascinated.
Absolutely, and I think that fascination has only grown over the years.
Right.
Even though Project Blue Book ended decades ago,
Mm-hmm.
people are still poring over those declassified files looking for clues.
That makes sense.
And it's not just amateur sleuths.
So,
The government's interest in UFOs,
or
or UAPs as they're now called.
UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena,
That's right. Okay.
has been renewed in recent years.
Yeah, with those congressional hearings and the Pentagon's new task force dedicated to investigating UAPs,
Right.
it seems like the government is finally taking the issue seriously again.
They are, and it makes you wonder,
About what?
are we finally on the verge of some kind of disclosure?
Oh, interesting.
Will we finally get answers to the questions that Project Blue Book failed to resolve?
It's exciting to think about.
Right.
And it's a testament to the enduring legacy of Project Blue Book, for better or for worse.
This project was a product of its time, a reflection of the anxieties and hopes of the Cold War era.
Yeah.
But it also speaks to something deeper, to our innate human curiosity, our desire to explore the unknown and understand our place in the vastness of the cosmos.
Absolutely. And that desire to explore the unknown is something that will continue to drive us even if we never fully unravel the mysteries of Project Blue Book.
Right.
It's the journey, the exploration that truly matters.
Well said. And speaking of exploration,
Yeah.
I think it's time we shift our focus to something else that captured the world's imagination around the same time as Project Blue Book.
Oh, okay.
The birth of artificial intelligence.
You're talking about the launch of ChatGPT.
I am. I'm
Huh.
fascinated by how quickly AI has evolved and how it's changing our lives in ways we never could have imagined.
It's crazy.
But what does ChatGPT have to do with UFOs?
Maybe more than you think.
Okay.
What if AI could help us analyze all those unexplained UFO sightings from Project Blue Book? What if it could help us find patterns and connections that human investigators might have missed?
That's an incredible thought.
Right.
It's like having a superpowered detective who
Exactly.
can sift through mountains of evidence in the blink of an eye and spot things that we would never notice.
Imagine feeding all of Project Blue Book's data.
Wow.
Witness testimonies, radar readings, photographs, the whole shebang
All of it.
into a sophisticated AI system like ChatGPT.
And man,
It could analyze the circumstances of each sighting, the types of objects reported, the locations, the weather conditions, all of it.
and then flag anything that stands out as statistically unusual or that fits a certain profile.
Exactly.
That would be amazing.
Right.
But do you really think AI is capable of doing that? I mean, it's a lot of data to process.
I think it has the potential.
Yeah.
AI is incredibly good at recognizing patterns and making connections even in massive data sets.
Sure.
And we're not just talking about the Project Blue Book files. Imagine if AI could access all the data we have now, satellite imagery, global sensor networks, all the UFO sightings reported online.
It would be like connecting the dots on a global scale.
Exactly.
We could potentially see the bigger picture of the UFO phenomenon in a way that was never possible before.
And it's not just about finding patterns.
Okay.
AI could also help us understand the psychological factors that might influence UFO sightings.
Oh, interesting.
It could analyze witness testimonies, looking for linguistic patterns or emotional cues that might indicate a genuine experience as opposed to a hoax or misidentification.
So AI could help us weed out the hoaxes
Hmm.
and focus on the cases that are truly compelling.
Right.
But even if AI did point us toward a truly unexplained phenomenon,
Yeah.
how would we even begin to make sense of it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
But that's where the real scientific work begins.
I see.
If we had strong evidence that something truly anomalous was happening, it would justify a whole new level of research and investigation. It could lead to the development of new technologies and scientific instruments specifically designed to detect and analyze these phenomena.
It could revolutionize our understanding of physics, astronomy,
Hey!
maybe even consciousness itself. The possibilities are mind-blowing.
They are, and a little bit scary, to be honest.
What do you mean?
What if what we find out there challenges everything we thought we knew about reality?
That's a thought-provoking question.
It is, isn't it?
What if our current understanding of physics is just the tip of the iceberg, and there's a whole universe of possibilities out there that we haven't even begun to grasp?
Right.
But I think that's a conversation for another deep dive.
Agreed. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the historical investigations of Project Blue Book to the potential role of AI in unraveling the UFO mystery.
It's been quite a journey, but we're not finished yet. We'll be right back for the final part of our deep dive into Project Blue Book and the future of UFO research. Welcome back to Beyond the Unknown. It's amazing how this whole conversation about Project Blue Book has led us to artificial intelligence.
It really is. It shows how everything is kind of connected.
It really does. So we've got this huge amount of data from Project Blue Book
Yeah.
and decades of UFO sightings since then. And we've got AI with its ability to analyze patterns and make connections that humans might miss. What if AI could be the key to finally unlocking the secrets of the UFO phenomenon?
Well, it could sift through all those reports, looking for subtle clues, connections, things our human brains just aren't wired to see.
He's some kind of cosmic detective.
Yeah, exactly.
But how would AI actually be applied to the UFO mystery? What would it look for?
Well, for starters, it could analyze the types of objects reported.
Okay.
Are there certain shapes, sizes, movements that appear more often?
Except,
Are there clusters of sightings that share common features? AI could identify these patterns and potentially link them to specific geographic locations, time periods, or even weather conditions.
so it could help us determine if there are any hotspots for UFO activity,
Exactly.
or if certain types of UFOs are more likely to appear under certain conditions.
Right.
That would be incredibly valuable information.
And don't forget, AI can also analyze witness testimonies,
Oh, right.
looking for linguistic patterns or emotional cues that might indicate a genuine experience.
Versus a hoax.
Exactly, as opposed to a hoax or a misidentification. It could even compare witness accounts to known psychological phenomena to see if there are any commonalities.
So AI could help us weed out the hoaxes, and focus on the cases that are truly compelling.
Yes.
But even if AI did point us toward a truly unexplained phenomenon, how would we even begin to make sense of it? We're talking about things that seem to defy our current understanding of physics and technology.
That's the challenge, isn't it? That's where the real scientific work begins. If we had strong evidence that something truly anomalous was happening, it would justify a whole new level of research and investigation. It could lead to the development of new technologies and scientific instruments specifically designed to detect and analyze these phenomena.
It could revolutionize our understanding of the universe. Maybe we'd discover new laws of physics, new forms of energy, things we can't even imagine right now.
Exactly.
It's both exciting and a little bit daunting.
It is.
But as you said earlier, it's the exploration, the journey, that matters most. And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe AI will be the tool that finally helps us crack the code of the UFO mystery.
Maybe it will. One thing's for sure. The human fascination with UFOs isn't going away anytime soon.
I think you're right about that. And as AI continues to evolve, who knows what other mysteries it might help us unravel. Maybe one day we'll be able to answer those age-old questions. Are we alone?
Right?
But if not, what else is out there?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Those are questions that have captivated humanity for centuries. And it's exciting to think that we might be getting closer to finding the answers.
Well, it's been another fantastic deep dive into the unknown.
It has. I always learn so much from these conversations.
Me too. And we want to hear from you, our listeners. What are your thoughts on Project Blue Book? Do you think AI could help us solve the UFO mystery? Head over to our social media pages and share your thoughts and theories. Until next time, keep looking up.